Hello. We are here today with Professor Andrzej Cwirzen. Welcome, Andrzej.
Hello. Hi.
And hi. So you have recently received the awards during the Betonggalan as the Concrete Scientist of the Year with a great motivation that puts Swedish concrete research on the world map. So first of all, congratulations. We all know that this is quite a big achievement in Sweden. So you have been head of the group since 2015 at Luleå University of Technology, but this is not where you started your scientific career. So the first question we want to ask is, how did your path bring you up here in the north, in Luleå?
So I'm coming from Poland, as you might know. I left Poland in 1999. I moved to Finland, to Helsinki and Espoo, where I was making my PhD at the Helsinki University of Technology. Then I stayed there, made my postdoc position, and I was a teacher. I worked in the industry in between as a project manager, R&D project manager. Then I became a professor in Finland. And one sunny day, somebody called me. Some strange company from UK asked me if I would be interested in a position in a university called Luleå University of Technology. I said, yes, but where it is? Where is it? In Sweden. Okay, it's in Sweden. Okay, so this is how it started. I didn't know it's so far in the north, but it was in Sweden. And then I went through the process, and they decided to choose me. So I arrived to the north. And this is where I am still after 5 years.
But when did you decide to become a scientist? Was it during late studies, master studies, or even earlier?
No, it was really at the university during the master studies. Yeah, my father used to have a construction company, quite big one, and I was working with him. And I thought I need to do something more basics there. There are so many questions to be answered, so many problems to be solved, and being on the building side, you actually rely on research or tests of somebody else. I wanted to be the person to find solutions and provide answers. So that's when it started, and then university, of course, was a good experience as well. I work in the industry also during summer times, but I thought then I want to continue my development. And when you make a master degree, it's just the beginning of a career to gain this very specialized knowledge. So if you really want to be a specialist in some area, you have to go on with learning. Once you go to the industry, you actually go backwards. You limit your knowledge. No, it's true. At the university, you get lots of general knowledge. And once you go to the industry, your knowledge is getting narrower. You specialize in some very narrow area, which is defined by the company you work for. So after a couple of years, after leaving university, half of your knowledge is probably gone, if not more. So I didn't want to have it. I still wanted to continue. And now 15 years, no, it's actually more. It's 20 years after graduating as a master in civil engineering, I still think that I know nothing about civil engineering. And I spent quite a lot of time learning all the time. Yeah, so this was that.
Really interesting. Yeah. And actually, in the position now that you are, what does a normal working day look like for you?
Normal working day. In Corona times, you sit at home and work, so there looks everything quite similar. You start in the morning and end up in 9, 10 in the evening. So there's not really 6, 7, 8 hours. I think nobody listens because officially we should work 8 hours, of course. But reality is such that as a scientist, you never stop working. You have just breaks to go home, to take care of a baby. But then eventually you come back to work, and then quite often you work in the night. But both of you know this as well. So so as scientists, you don't really work from 8 to 4. If you work from 8 to 4 at the university, it means you're not a scientist, you're just an administrative person or a technician. But the real scientists never stop working. They never stop thinking. You might have a weekend, but weekends can be quite good for refreshing your your brain, and you might get the best ideas during weekend. The same about holidays. If you're able to switch off completely from scientific work during your holidays, it means you are not really fully into this work. So I would say the real scientist is never stops working, really.
So you mentioned COVID already. That was our next question. In fact, how did your day change? But we will skip that because you already included it. But then coming back to COVID, we all know that it's changed quite a lot of our way of thinking this year because no one expected it. In fact, the pandemic, except maybe for some few people in the world who were talking about it before. But so if you were to make a prediction right now about the future, what do you think that will be the possible problems that the science will face in the near future?
Problems because of COVID experience, I mean?
Not related to COVID itself, but since COVID opened in a way a gate of different thinking about different problems. So do you think that there can be, you could predict something else that could be similar?
What I think of is all the social events. I think people will never get the same level of confidence. They can go for huge meetings and be completely safe. So I think this has changed. And what I believe in, I think is also actually good, then more and more problems or meetings will be done online. Because this, first of all, you don't have to fly, which means you are not so bad for the planet. You are using less airplanes, you are emitting less CO2. So at the end of the day, and actually you get also more efficient. If you would think, if you have to go for a meeting to Stockholm, normally meetings, they last, 3 hours? 4 hours, already long meeting. And then you think how much time you spend extra to get to the airport, to fly there, to go from airport to the city, and so on and so on. Suddenly you realize that actually out of 14 hours you're away from home, you were actually effectively working only 3 hours or 4 hours. And you could do most of those meetings you can do online in a much more effective way. And I think many people have realized it. It's been there since March, it's many months now, and many people admitted it, and they are much more efficient. And then they can do their work just in shorter time compared what they spent before on the same task. So I think this is going to change. So the FaceTime, like they call it now, it's important, but I think it will limit because it's quite often it's let's be honest, waste of time. I mean, how long can you talk about weather and the simple things when there are big things, big tasks waiting for you in the office or in the laboratory? So so I think it will change. The culture, the working culture will change. I hope it will change because, of course, it will be compromised. It will be completely switched to remote meetings because you need to get to know people. And the ideal solution is to have the first meeting, physical meeting, to get to know the person, and then you have these online meetings. If you have to get to know somebody online only, and they will never see this person in real, it's just not the same. You don't make this really long-lasting networking. So, yeah. That is what I think. And of course, there will be some research about COVID. I think we also will try to develop concrete, which is killing all this bacteria and viruses. So this could be a new trend as well. Actually, there is a friend of mine who is a scientist in India. They said if they want to get a research project in India now, even in a concrete technology, there has to be some aspect about COVID in it. So they all have cooperations with the health sciences and the biologists. Try to develop something. So yeah, so it's going to be even change for our research area.
Really interesting. Then going back to the tasks and your job. So what can you consider like the hardest part of your job as a professor?
The hardest part.
Yeah.
Nowadays being professor means your first task is to get money, to get research money. So this foundation. Sweden is especially tough country because you need money for everything. There is very little coming from the state. So you have to get money for yourself, for students, for paying rent, for buying equipment. So I think most professors in Sweden will agree with me. Then I don't know, something between professors, not teachers, because there are also those professors in Sweden who are mostly teaching, but those who are actually making research, I would say then the 60 to 80% time they spend on networking, writing applications, and trying to get funding. And then the rest goes for PhD students, somehow in between, and perhaps some administrative meetings. But I think hunting for money is the main task of a professor, unfortunately, in Sweden. But I think in other countries, is perhaps the percentage is smaller, but it's also important thing to do, unfortunately. In Sweden, but I think in other countries, is perhaps the percentage is smaller, but it's also important thing to do.
Okay, so still sticking to your job right now, we wanted to ask you first about your current research, but then we decided that if someone is interested, then they can read your published papers, so we will not ask you about this. But we were wondering, what are, according to you, the most crucial challenges to be solved within your research area right now?
Of course, sustainability is the leading topic not only for our area, but in general. And since we are dealing mostly with concrete is not perceived as a very sustainable material at the moment. You know this, then every ton of cement emits around 900 kilograms of CO2, which is a staggering number. And keeping this in mind, and concrete is the second most used material after water, like I tell to everybody around. They are large amounts. So of course, there's lots of research being done how to decrease the amount of cement, how to replace alternative binders. But so basically, scientists can say, okay, these are the solutions. You can lower the CO2 emission by 80 to 100%. But then there's the implementation stage. So how to get those developments out in the market and convince the industry and the clients and the publics, then the solution is actually safe for them. So it might be cheaper, might be emitting less CO2, but people don't want to have materials they don't really know. So I think this is the biggest challenge, to get it out on the market, and also to make it so it fully complies with the current regulations, and they are quite tough in the construction industry. So I think this is the biggest challenge, to find something ecological, strong enough, good enough, lasting long, being cheaper, looking good, being accepted, and so on and so on. So there are lots of requirements you have to fill in, and the researchers have quite a big impact on those, I would say.
Okay, so now we want to go a little bit outside this research area and ask some different questions. And the first one was what would you say that excites you outside the academia? Like, we know that you like sailing, for example. So what can you say about this outside the research?
I like sailing. I like sailing, and in Luleå there are quite good conditions, at least for 3 months in a year, because otherwise everything is frozen here. So for 3-4 months you can sail. And then, of course, there's flying. So this I like the most. So comparing flying and sailing, the difference is then when you sail, you have lots of time to think. So if you want to really escape from problems or disconnect from them, sailing might not be the best option, because you're going to have more time. When you go up on a sea, then it might take a whole day or 2 days until you are back on land. So plenty of time to think. But when you think about flying, there is no time for thinking. So there is so much to be done. It's so intense, you have to switch off completely from everything. So if I really want to forget a little bit, get some reset of my brain, the best is to go flying. Now, quite often after 1 or 2 hour flight, when after landing, putting the plane back to the hangar and closing the flight plan, I have to think, okay, so what I was worrying about, okay, this was the self-healing concrete. Yeah, but I think it's important to, like I said at the beginning, so I believe that most scientists, they really cannot disconnect from work. And but at some point, everybody needs this, and so everybody should have something to disconnect. I think it's also good to do something else because it widens your horizons. You know, like quite a lot of scientific work is focusing on solving problems, and in order to solve problems, often you have to go outside of your comfort zone, think out of the box. And if you don't do anything else, then this one thing you do your whole life, then you don't have anything outside. You know, it's just nothing. Wherever you look, it's always the same topic. So I believe those people will have really problem to solve problems, to create something new. So that's why doing all crazy things like, as an engineer, I don't know, repairing cars, building boats, or making electric cars, anything which is not connected directly, but it's somehow solving problems. So you have to learn some new things. You have sometimes no idea about, but you still have to try to understand them without going for 5 years to the university to understand electrical engineering. So this trains you how to solve problem, getting just small pieces of information and putting it together, and then see if it's going to work. As you know, I think we had it many times when there were projects. Some of these my projects ideas are really crazy. Some of them industry was saying, "Hey, it's not going to work," and then they work. You know, just because we took a risk. Okay, it was calculated risk, so it was not completely. We thought it's going to work. It could work. We had some basis from other disciplines, some ideas, but it took a risk. But yeah, so I think it's important to have something outside so one can get out of the box, completely look for solutions. So if somebody is just looking for, if you, for instance, developed a new cementitious binder, you are perfect in a cement chemistry, you are perfect in a concrete technology. You might be good for testing this concrete. You might be good to say, okay, the durability is going to be like this, and you can model this. But if you have to develop some new binder, then starts to be a problem, because where to look for this? Now you start thinking with this prism of the filter of this your knowledge, then it's going to limit you. So I think you know, there are those stories about crazy scientists. So they are a little bit like disconnected from reality. They're in their own world and doing their stuff. And I think it's a little bit of this. You have to be a little bit out of your mind. Sometimes come out with crazy ideas and go against the crowd. You know, when you follow, you have to be. What I used to say now quite often, you cannot be politically correct if you want to be a good scientist. You have to question everything. You have to look for solutions nobody thought about, or solutions many people say it's total rubbish. It's never going to work. But why not? Perhaps they didn't take all the factors into account. So they just actually left some great idea and great opportunity away because they didn't have this one small puzzle to make it work. Yeah? I'm not sure if I answer your question, but
yes, perfect.
That's actually inspiring, and I think it gives hope to PhD students that they can have hobbies and that it can actually help them in their work. So that's really nice. And now we have a question that's completely different, but also connected maybe a bit to craziness. So, so are there any superstitions that you believe in?
I'm not sure if I have anything now. I used to have lots of them when I was younger. But once you get older and older, get more and more gray hairs, I guess you get more realistic. And I think you also think you might have more control. I don't know if I have any. People who know me, they many will tell you then I'm quite often I might be pessimistic, but I never think it's pessimistic. It's more realistic. So what I like to do is to think about the worst case scenario. Try to predict what's going to happen. So this is perhaps this could be one of sort of superstition, because I assume that something bad can happen, or the things can go in the wrong direction and the worst direction, and then I try to have some backup plan ready. So I'm not like, oops, something happened. So what should I do? No, actually, I have something normally something prepared. So I think, yeah, perhaps being afraid of then think that things go wrong. Yeah, this could be my problem.
Okay, so taking always into account this kind of war situation is the next question about imagining this stressful situation, like very bad situation, like your house is on fire and you have the possibility only to take one thing with you. Of course, your family and your dog are safe. So just one material thing from your home. So what would that be?
From our house.
Yes.
And the family is away.
Yeah, family and dog are safe.
I think I wouldn't take anything because everything important I have in a garage, which is a separate building.
That was very nice answer. Yeah, absolutely. We didn't expect this. We haven't taken into account an answer like this. So yeah, okay.
We were really proud regarding this question, but okay.
Yeah, we were even trying to guess what will you answer, but yeah, we didn't. Yeah, completely wrong. Okay.
So coming to the next question, it's about technology. So we know that privately you have some very strong opinions on smartphones. So we were wondering if you have any specific smartphone apps that you cannot live without.
I cannot live without. Yeah, the banking apps. The bank ID. I think you cannot live without this. Nobody can really.
Okay. Boring apps.
Okay, we haven't guessed also this answer, so it's okay. We have not, yeah. So again, one of these kind of choices and kind of the strange situation. So if you had to choose someone in the world that is alive or dead, we are considering that we can have all the choices, to meet online this time. So since we are in this online meeting, who would be?
Somebody who's dead.
Person.
Can be
or
dead.
alive, doesn't.
Alive. Elon Musk, I think.
Okay.
Nice.
Now we are hoping that Elon is watching us as well.
Yeah. Check out SciBlogger, Elon, please.
No, but seriously, when you look at all these people, famous people, he's approximately my age, but he is rich. At some moment he could just say, okay, I have my money, and then I put it in a bank account and make some investments, and things just go on. But he's just not giving up. He's having new ideas, new projects, and just goes out into space. It's like I think there's nobody else I could compare to, because okay, there's Bill Gates. He developed this software. Yeah, it's fine, but compare Bill Gates and Mr. Musk. I mean, Mr. Musk is like a whole portfolio of things he was participating to develop. But So I think if I would like to meet somebody, it would be really him.
Okay. So again, this is a bit more of a private choice question. So we know that you work a lot and you don't go often for vacation, but if you could choose one place in the world to go to on vacation to, what would it be? Where would you go?
One place.
Yes.
This is the most difficult question, I think. I think New Zealand. I would go again to New Zealand, to the mountains in New Zealand, out there. Yeah, I think this would be the place I would like to go again.
And why? Why do you like it so much?
Oh, it's a beautiful place, and the Lord of the Ring was filmed there. So the landscape is it's breathtaking, and it's also far away. Once you're in New Zealand, you really feel you are really away from everything around you, and this gives you this, I don't know, peace of mind in sort of. And then when you go to the Alps, when there's absolutely nobody and the air is crystal clear, it's so clean. Then you have this thing. Then it hurts your lungs almost. So when you put it all together, it's really amazing place. Because okay, you have also high mountains. You have high mountains in Europe, but they're overcrowded. If you want to go to Himalaya, it's dangerous to be there. To take big risk, but you can go to New Zealand, see great landscapes, and be safe and be alone and in perfect air. Of course, unless there is some earthquake, then you might be in trouble. But I think yeah, I think it would be this one. Or Arizona desert. I think this would be second on the list. I would like to go.
But this is what we were
We were putting that in. Yeah. Absolutely. We were guessing for that as the first of the list, but yeah, we haven't guessed a lot of answers today. So
Exactly.
Okay. So do you have any advice to young people who are now, for example, graduating and trying to choose their career path or trying to approach the PhD studies?
You mean after obtaining their master degree?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my advice would be to actually I don't know, because normally when you graduate, you either have the idea go to the industry because you want to finally finish your education. It's at the end of the day, it's lots of years. So you should go to the industry and enjoy it, because they quite a change of lifestyle. As you will see, many people suffer the first years in the industry because suddenly realized that actually life is not as easy as people that they have thought. On the other hand, if you have some ideas to stay at the university, then I would still suggest to go to the industry at least for 1 year, and then come back to the university, because it also gives you this extra experience, which is good for any research project. And then also gives you this idea how industry looks like. So if you get a master degree and then you don't go to the industry, you go to the university, you might think, oh, it's somehow it's such a bad place, I should have come to the industry, just because you didn't know how it is in the industry. So I think it's good to have an idea about both environments. And as of course depends what kind of studies you do, if it's engineering or is it IT or is it health science, so they are different conditions. But I was talking more about the construction industry. So I think generally I would suggest for anyone to go to the industry at least for 1 year, just to see how it looks in the real life. Some of students, of course, work during their studies, but normally they are short-term jobs during the summer, so it's not the same. But really go like full-time, experience this reality, and then decide whether they want to go on with the industrial activities or they want to go back to the university. And if they go back to the university, it will be a big advantage when they get this industrial experience. So I think this would be my advice if they don't know yet what they want to do with their life on a 50 year.
Okay, but for those people who know that they want to be researchers, for those students, what would you say? What is one skill that they should develop to become those researchers?
They shouldn't be politically correct. So I think that's the fundamental. They should be always critical to everything and everybody. You should question everybody, including Albert Einstein, because he might be wrong until it's not proved experimentally. So I would suggest that there are no authorities, there are no great professors, there are no great scientists you couldn't question. So one has to really learn to criticize, to question, and try to answer. When you question some statement, you should also be thinking, what could be my answer? What could be my solution? And then most PhD students learn this during the writing papers and review processes and so on. So, and the other thing, is also then one should be able to admit mistake. There are many scientists that there is a trend. The older you get, the longer you are in the scientific world, you have your pride, And even though you know you're not completely right, those people never say I was wrong, because how it would look like, you know, big professor says I was wrong. So I think this also shows whether the scientist is really good or not, because things are changing. You know, you might create a theory which is perfectly fitting to all the data which we collected with a certain equipment at certain time. But then there's coming new device, new equipment, you get more data, and suddenly this story is not correct, you see it. So now those really good scientists, they say, okay, I was wrong. It doesn't work this way. But there will be some also who will say, no, I was right, and they will still try to prove they were right. And I know many cases like this, and it gets stronger and stronger the older the professor, the professor is. So I think the scientist should be always open-minded, always to the very, very end.
Okay, so we are coming to the end. So to conclude with the last question, are there currently any opportunities in your research group at LTU?
Yeah, we are opening next year 2 PhD positions. At the moment, we have, I think, 10 PhD students. So we are 12 after. One is in it's focusing on ecological concrete in fire conditions, a very interesting topic done with the industry. And the second one is, it is really cool because we got financing from the energy agency from Sweden. And the main aim is to develop products which are made from waste of process residues, so waste from different processes, like from mining or from construction industry. And we are talking about the project, which should really end up with several ready products which could be put in the full production. But of course, everything starts from basic research for both projects. So yeah, so those are those 2 positions we're gonna have next year, and they will be open probably in January, February next year. So if anybody's interested, you should follow our homepage and just apply for a position. I have to say that the process is normally tough. We are getting an average between 70 to 120, 110, 130 candidates for one place. And they are coming from all over the world. But if you are good, you have chance.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth it. So we can say with Ilda. So
yeah. Yes, exactly. We can confirm it for sure.
Okay, so that was the last question, as Ilda said. So thank you very much for taking time, even though you're very busy, and answering our questions. And it was very inspiring talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. How they say in Sweden, hej då.
Hej då.
Hej då.